My focus is really on two things: on asset first, preserving and developing the asset from a maintenance standpoint, preventive maintenance, spending the money where the money needs to be spent. And then the other part of my focus is on the resident, on their experience.
That's Adrian Danila. He manages large assets and multi-site portfolios with a main business objective to build the best service teams possible. He does this in order to provide outstanding service to his company, their clients, and assist people in growing their careers. Adrian has a deep understanding of the process to recruit maintenance teams. He provides training and mentoring to service teams, enjoys troubleshooting challenging properties, and leading due diligence and takeover teams. In this show, we talk about a range of activities from his time management, his approach to creating a great customer and resident experience, his financial aspects of the business, and what he's doing to recruit top maintenance teams. He talks about company culture.
The biggest resource that we have is really people and the time that they have in a day. If we're not using that wise, then we're setting ourselves to fail.
You're listening to the Multifamily Leadership Podcast with Patrick Antrim, your source for success strategies for multifamily professionals, CEOs, executive leaders, and aspiring leaders that want to drive high-performance results for their property or portfolio.
This is Patrick Antrim, founder and CEO of Multifamily Leadership and producer of the Multifamily Leadership Summit, where we celebrate the best places to work multifamily. Welcome to the Multifamily Leadership Podcast, where I speak with executive leaders, authors, and business leaders on the topics that advance leadership in multifamily. It is our goal to give you insights into what top leaders are doing to drive financial results and great resident experiences for their portfolios. Now, if you want to get access to other resources such as videos, articles, show notes, other episodes of this podcast, and information on working with me or having me keynote your next event, you can visit multifamilyleadership.com. Okay, before we jump right into the discussion, I want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to our show sponsors. So today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/multifamily. You can also access the link in the show notes at multifamilyleadership.com. Adrian, welcome to the Multifamily Leadership Podcast.
Patrick, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's really great to be here and share the time with you. I have to open up. I'm interested in the story about how you became such an inspirational maintenance leader in the multifamily industry. And tell me how you got started in the industry.
Back in 2003, I came to United States. I wasn't speaking much English at all. Probably my whole vocabulary was 50, 60 words at the most. And at the time, I had a friend that was doing a PhD at Georgia Tech. Of course, I was trying to get a job so I could get some income, steady income. And he told me that there were a couple of groundskeeper positions open at Georgia Tech at the time. So I learned the word groundskeeper and I just kind of took it and ran with it. And I ended up applying for groundskeeper jobs. It happened that the first company that accepted me was a property management company. And that's how I started. That was a part-time job back in September of 2003. In 2004, that became a full-time job with a different management company. Fast forward 4 years later, in 2008, I moved up to regional maintenance director for one of the the largest company in the United States, Greystar Management here in Atlanta area.
You know, it's interesting because you talk deeply about many things that lead to people becoming better in the maintenance department, the maintenance side of the business, from resident experience to cost, financial, driving returns for owners. I mean, you think big picture for apartment investors, management companies. And so I have to follow up on this one question, because in reading your background, were you an attorney? Are you an attorney?
This was in a previous life. Yes, back in Romania, I am a certified lawyer. I never practiced as a lawyer, but I did pass the bar exam. So I do have this certification. I went to law school, graduated, and then obviously passed the exam. So I could be a lawyer in Romania if I ever choose to go back there and practice.
That's great. And so that had to have given you an interesting perspective as you escalated through the ranks of the maintenance departments, leading people, managing teams, understanding risk management. Tell me how that perspective gave you strength.
I think really it had me really think more organized, and it gave me a different perspective about life. It helped me see the big picture easily, and I won't say that I apply necessary things that I learned in law school, but just it's kind of like a training for your brain, if you want, exercising for the brain. So I think to that perspective, that was the kind of the great help that I got from being in law school, graduating. I get a lot of people asking me if I was ever in military. I never been in military. However, I think that going through law school, graduating really helped me be more organized and more thorough.
That's good. So, Adrian, I have to understand a little bit more about your approach. I mean, tell me a little bit about what you're doing differently in operations on the maintenance side of the teams to develop a better resident experience, creating a better culture. Tell me about what you do differently.
It's not necessary doing things differently. Of course, some things are going to be different than other service managers' approaches. My focus is really on two things: on asset first, preserving and developing the asset from a maintenance standpoint, preventive maintenance, spending the money where the money needs to be spent. And then the other part of my focus is on the resident, on their experience. We strive to complete every single request within 24 hours. Of course, emergencies, we have a 4-hour limit for completing them. I could tell you that I'm overseeing 2 assets right now, totaling 843 apartments. In a week, more days than not, we have basically 0 pending service requests. At the end of the day, we close with 0 or 2 or 3, 5 or less, I will say. 5 or less service requests pending for the next day. We try not to leave anything behind.
Do you think that's because of management? I mean, for example, you're developing other leaders, not only recruiting them, but in maintenance, are you teaching people how to manage the process? Is it the technical, or is it the resources you have?
It's mainly the human resource. I always strive to hire the best that are out there. I could tell you that I have a extraordinary team that I'm leading on this point. We're doing cross training. So, for example, the technician that needs help in electrical will team up with a technician that's very good at electrical, and they work together until this technician gets where it needs to be. The same with plumbing, HVAC. So we do this cross training, and I have my team members are all taking very much pride in the work that they do, and that makes all the difference. For me, it's very easy to lead a team like this because they're kind of self-motivated. All I do is really make sure that they have all the tools that they need and the guidance that they need to get the job done. And
do you think that self-motivate, is that something you're teaching, or is that something you're setting an expectation to, or you're just hiring right?
It's a combination. I will say that I'm looking for people that are self-motivated. That doesn't always happen, especially with someone that's kind of green in the industry or a younger person. I will say that we might need to work on that aspect. However, being surrounded by people that are like that, their chances to succeed are much higher than in any different environment, any other environment.
So many of the asset managers, investors today understand the power and the importance of the maintenance operations. And as we do new acquisitions, we're looking deeply at the operational lift that can be created by acquiring a portfolio or a property. And, when you look at the teams that are going to actually execute and carry out that plan, it's important to understand the depth of strength, the supervision that you have on site, and that team's ability to create a great resident experience. Because if turnover is high, that's not good. And if maintenance service calls are not getting handled, you're talking about bad, damaging reviews that are difficult to undo. They rest all over the internet, and word of mouth travels faster than it's ever traveled before. And all of this is part of the whole acquisition process. So the reason why we had you on the show today is because we believe that the maintenance operation is an important contribution to the investor owner's ability to create yields for their owners. So what are you doing today to manage that process in the financial elements of this business?
Well, as you mentioned before, hiring right, obviously I'm trying to hire the right people. I do have currently a great, outstanding team that I work with. So that's kind of mission accomplished at this point. We try not to get the callbacks. A lot of times it might be a difference between what the residents expects and what we think that we need to provide when it comes to service. We try to follow up with the residents almost immediately. We do resident surveys. So in other words, our system is like this. Service technician goes to resident home. They take care of the service request. When the service request is completed, it's completed in our system, in our software. We completed it. That triggers automatically a survey to the resident. So the resident is emailed a survey where they're rating us. And sometimes you might be surprised, but we get feedback within minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes after the work was completed. If it's something in a survey that is not really exceptional and is something that we could have done differently, we address that immediately on the spot. We contact the resident. Of course, we apologize for the, the lack of service per se, and we always make things right for them, and that makes a big difference.
That's what you have control over as your own team, but are there times when you're working with industry partners or vendors, and does building solid relationships there mean anything to fulfilling this service experience?
It's kind of the same process as I go through with my team, with my own coworkers, with my team members. I try to work with the best vendors that are out there. Of course, from a financial standpoint, we need to balance quality and price of the service. But I do want to say that I have a great group of vendors that are servicing us, and we get a very limited amount of callbacks from vendor-related work. And when we do get, we address immediately.
So how does somebody in maintenance, do you learn this process? Did you have a mentor? How did you understand how to best run these operations?
Yes, actually, I do have a mentor. His name is Scott Purcell. This is back in the day when I was just a punch technician. I was put in charge with doing turnkey for a 500 unit complex, and he actually taught me how the turnkey process should go, and he told me how to schedule. He taught me everything I needed to know, and that was I will say, a huge part of my early success in this career, because he helped me understand how things should be done, in which order, and how important is to communicate with a vendor, and how important is to get the most reliable vendors out there. So I want to take the opportunity and say thank you, Scott.
That's so nice. I mean, I'm sure that you've got people that are following you today that are reaching out, thinking the same thing. I mean, it's so important to have mentorships. Is that a relationship that you developed, or he took you under his wing? How did that originate?
He was actually my property manager at the time. He's actually the property manager that offered me the chance, gave me the chance of being a full-time employee. That was my first full-time groundskeeper job. That's where I started. And I worked with Scott for 2.5 years. I was the assistant service manager when I found a different opportunity with a different company, and I went for a service manager position. That's when I left.
Has that influenced how you lead today? How he took you under his wing, or?
It definitely did, and I'm always looking to pay this forward. I have my current assistant used to be a groundskeeper himself just 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago. So from 5 years ago being a groundskeeper, being the assistant service manager for 843 apartment homes, that's a big accomplishment. And I'm trying to work with him and develop him in becoming a service manager, help him in any way I can to get where he needs to be.
That's interesting. I love to see growth like that. I mean, how does that make you feel when you yourself grow, but you're also growing other leaders as well?
Very proud. I believe that leadership is being a servant to your people. That's all it is. You're no better than your people. You have to be humble. You have to be there whenever they need your help, whatever the help might be. It might be a tool. It might be a day off with a family. They might have a situation, whatever that is. You need to think about them. That, you see, we spend most of our lives working really with coworkers, but sometimes we tend to forget that there's a family for everybody at home, and that's very, very important. In fact, for everybody, family is more important than the part that you spend at work. And if you have a family situation, that should always take priority over work. And I always keep that in mind, and I always make it happen whenever a personal situation occurs with one of my team members.
Yeah, that's got to help with your ability to create that culture for service too, right? I mean, just taking care of your team first means that they're their best. They're in a good state. They feel good. They're showing up to work to win for you every day, maybe putting in that extra effort. They're engaged in higher levels. And that translates to the resident experience, right? When they come in and do work orders and they're interacting with our residents, our customers, right?
Absolutely. I feel like they're every day there for me, every day giving 100%. So if they give me 100%, I got to try to push for 100 and some percent for them. I owe them that.
Are you doing anything to engage them in terms of motivation? How do you motivate a maintenance team?
It's just the goal of being the best team in a company, the best team ever, if you like. I think it makes them feel very proud. We share the results we're getting. Our company has key performance indicators. Our properties are always at the very top. I won't say that always number one and number two, but they're always in top 10. And that really is a very great source of pride for all of my coworkers. Another way to motivate them is to actually share the surveys that we get from residents. Some residents have really impressive things to say about the service, just because it's not something that you experience every day. All of my team members go above and beyond, and we do whatever is the right thing for the resident.
And where does that come from? Does that come from company culture? Is that your personal operating vision, integrity?
I think it's a combination of both. I do have high standards myself. I always want to do the right thing for the residents. I want to do the right thing for the owners as well. In fact, I thinking of myself of being more careful with how I spend my company money than my own money at times. Also, my company, Corland Partners, has very high standards when it comes to resident service. They emphasize that they do a lot of training. So they're driving a customer-oriented mindset in a service department. And that's actually a great environment for me to be part of, just because that's kind of my mindset too.
So tell me more about that. What is that in communications? Is it emails, team meetings, vision statements? Tell me about that driving the resident focus, that customer mindset. Tell me about that more.
As I was mentioning before, resident surveys, the surveys that the residents are getting and they're responding to, those surveys are seen by every single employee on site, from groundskeeper to property manager. They're also seen by the executives in a company. Not only that they have access, but they actually read them. And you will get feedback at times, saying, "Hey guys, this is a great feedback. This is a great survey. Congratulations, John. You did an outstanding job." That shows how important resident satisfaction is for our leaders. And of course, if it's important for them, it's important for us as well.
So you're doing great service. You've got tools and systemic process in place that allows follow-up and survey and essentially measuring this process and this experience. And then on top of that, it sounds like the executive leaders, your team investors, whoever is leading the charge is also taking the time to notice you or notice the team and the great work and rewarding things that are going right so that it can be reinforced and people are motivated to do more?
Absolutely. I think you kind of get a company culture that you're rewarding, and that's exactly what our leadership is doing. They're rewarding great effort, and that's the kind of company culture that they're going to get eventually.
What's it like working with all the teams? You have the CEOs, presidents, regionals, all the different components of the business, vendors, suppliers. How do you keep all of those relationships in place?
First of all, I just say things the way I think. I never sugarcoat something. That's one of my big things. I'm very big on being truthful and saying the truth, whatever the consequence. Second of all, it's a very interesting dynamic in working with all these moving parts, the leadership part of the company, and you said the coworkers, also the vendors. We're all part of the big team. We ultimately have the same goal, to service our residents, and I think it shows our ratings in Google ratings, apartment ratings. They're very, very high. I will say higher than the average management company.
Sure.
So you see that on the results.
Right. Let me back up beyond your leadership and even beyond the greatness of the company you're working with. Tell me more about what companies can do today in the industry. Like, are there challenges that you see are present that we need to start thinking differently about things?
I will say we as an industry as a whole could probably focus on the service side more. There's so much potential in a service side that it's untapped at times. You think about this way, each apartment complex, each property has two management positions, a property manager and a service manager. the National Apartment Association has a program for property managers, but there's no such a program for service managers to become a certified service manager, to go through formal training to become a manager, and why not a leader? I think this is something that we could all do better as industry, and it'll help our teams grow tremendously. It could reduce the employee turnover too, and it could bring higher returns for our owners and investors.
Mm. And so working with people, makes your teams highly effective. I mean, they need, and the training certifications and programs that are in place today are good for foundational teaching and learning and being ready and capable to perform the job. But you're talking about coming above that and really developing leaders, teaching them how to manage, teaching them how to communicate, maybe dissolve customer service situations, things in this nature?
Exactly that, and also understanding the business side. When I'm saying the business side is understanding budgets, knowing how to read a budget, knowing how you could work with a budget, knowing how you could make things better, how you could impact a budget, the expense side, the income side. We impact both sides. If you think about it, you have the two big sides, the expense and the income. Of course, on the expense side, if we do a better job at fixing things instead, replacing them, so that's a big saving right there. On the income side, just think about it. Increasing resident retention, that impacts the vacancy loss of the apartment, reduces the turnkey cost, and ultimately that translates into a higher income for the assets.
That's interesting. Incremental income. I mean, as an asset manager, we're always looking for ways to create more value. And if there are timely capital events coming up, a transaction to sell, refinance the property, every bit of value matters. And so if you were to have training that developed leaders to understand the financial aspects in the maintenance departments of what a $250 a monthly expense savings by, walking by that leaky faucet and just instead of, coming back to it later, that $250 doesn't seem like a lot. Monthly expenses, what is that, $3,000 annually? If you were to capitalize that if you were going into refinance or potentially looking at an exit, that's about $40,000, $42,000 in value. If you were to cap it out, and so that little thing, that little drip of that faucet, or leaving that laundry room light on, or whatever that might be, if that's only $250 a month in expense, if you're teaching people the impact, the holistic approach to the business, the impact to every expense item, and what that translates into value, now on a refinance, you have an additional $42,000 in value coming out now. Putting in that extra carport or enhancing the pool deck as a capital program makes a little more sense. So effectively, you could create more value with training. Are you doing this through your operation? I mean, obviously you have deep understanding of these things because these have interested you to get to the next level. Are you teaching this to your teams?
Of course, I'm teaching myself. Personally, we do have staff meetings every day. I never start a day without being prepared. I'm always there before my team gets there, and I get the assignments for each team member ready. So when we all get together, let's say at 9 o'clock, we go over the first assignments for the day, and we also share. We also share all kinds of things. I'll share things like you and I just discussed, the financial impact, that we make by doing the right thing and addressing things the right way. We address all sorts of things. So I take advantage. I use my staff meetings not just to be a formal meeting with my team, but also to share my experience and also to hear from them, because I learn from them as much as they learn from me.
Tell me more about this organizational approach. I mean, I bet there are listeners out there that are looking to figure out how to best become proactive in the business versus reacting to emergencies and challenges that are a result of either not having a plan or neglecting it or just being understaffed. Tell me about how you approach, more deeply about how you approach your day as a leader.
I will just start with an example so everybody could understand the value of staying organized. I have a staff of pretty soon 12 members. And let's say that every morning they're waiting for 5 minutes for me to show up to be part of the meeting. So 5 minutes times 12, that's an hour of our collective time that just got wasted because I'm 5 minutes late. I can't afford for that to happen. I have a responsibility. Therefore, I'm always making sure that I'm there before them. We're starting the meeting on time, and we get the ball rolling. We hit the ground running as soon as we're done with the meeting. So we definitely, I'm definitely big on time management and using our resources in the best way possible. The biggest resource that we have is really people and the time that they have in a day. If we're not using that wise, then we're setting ourselves to fail.
That's great, Adrian. What do you do with non-performance? How do you approach that? When something isn't working either on the asset level or on your team?
We always try to fix. So whether that's a non-performing team member, again, our collective skill set is to a point where anybody could come in and know basically nothing, start green from zero, and become a very successful troubleshooter. The only thing that we can really instill in that person is the will. They had to be willing to work hard and learn what needs to be learned. We offer everything that they need in order to become successful. Mm-hmm. We try to work with a non-performance. I always try and to get them to better themselves, to bring their skill set up. But at the end of the day, that's a individual decision. And if their decision is that they don't wanna be a performer, a top performer, then I can. There's times when you have to say, I tried everything.
Sure.
And we had to. Exactly. We all have to move on.
Tell me about your approach to success. I know you talked a little bit about the operations, the technical part. You're deeply invested in people. But what personally has driven you to be so successful? I mean, if this is something that we teach, we're looking for in others as drive. But tell me about you and your commitment to your own success.
I think it starts with something that made me come to United States, and it simply put the American dream. The opportunity that this country offers like no other country in the world. Honestly, I definitely believe that, and seeing that I could be so much better, and then if I work hard, the result will come. That's a huge motivator. Plus, of course, I want to be better every day for myself. I want to be better every day for my family, and also to help the team that I'm working with. If I'm better, then my team is better too.
And so it sounds like companies today are trying to engage employees and invest in the human capital so that they reach their potential. But you're taking ownership of that process, and it's a two-way street. And employees have a responsibility to show up every day prepared to work, prepared to win, prepared to be their best, so that they can create the best experience, if that's in sales or maintenance, whatever that might be, so then their company can create their greatest experience, if that be a resident experience or an investor experience or industry partner experience, whatever that might be based on their company objectives. So you're taking a very self-aware, self-investment approach to getting better personally, and it sounds like it's allowing you to reach bigger and better levels of your career.
You have to invest in yourself. I'm a strong believer in that. I pretty much everything that I know, of course, I had a chance to work with great leaders, and some of them were they became my mentors. So I had many things to learn from them, but I don't limit myself to that. I do my own readings. I always look to read, not just about leadership or about service or about maintenance. I read about sales. I wanna learn about many other things that just what my let's say position entitles. It's just because knowledge is power, and this is something that definitely anywhere you would go, you will take with you.
So you're developing yourself, learning about sales. And do you think it's valuable that the management leasing teams learn about maintenance?
It is, but this is something that I learned from a great sales book. The recruiting, the approach we have, not just our industry, but the general approach versus a sales approach. Let's bring a sales approach to recruiting. Okay, we advertise open positions. People apply for positions. It's not only that people needing to fit our needs, but we also as a group, as a company, we have to be appealing to them. We have to be what they're looking for, what they're hoping for in a job. So this is a two-way street. The way I would approach recruiting is, let's say you have a team of 10 members or 15 members, 10 members. Each person knows 3 to 5 people that are great, that they work with them in the past. So if you take 10 times 3, it's 30 great people that your coworkers know. You build a database with names. You just say, if any of those 30 people ever get hired, we're going to pay you a $2,000 finder's fee, okay? We'll pay you $1,000 the day that they start with the company, and 6 months later, we're going to pay you another $1,000. That's a great incentive. The way you work that list is that you start calling people from that list. Most of them are not going to be interested. They'll be working, and they're not ready to make a move. But eventually you call again, and chances are you're going to find an opportunity when they're in between jobs. They're thinking to change their career or to change their company. And what if you're going to be the first person that they're talking with? They're not going to go look somewhere else, and they're going to give you a shot. They will like to hear what you have to say. And of course, if you have a great team, then think about that their friends will be great too, people that they recommend. So that's what I learned. That was my learning from a sales book.
That's great. That's some great advice there. Tell me about corporate culture and what that means for you in your process of developing it and subscribing to the culture you're operating in.
Now, a company culture, it's the sum of each individual behavior, each individual that works for that company. Of course, each company wants to develop a certain culture. They reward certain behaviors, and they're trying to drive those behaviors towards their guiding principles or their credo. At the end of the day, we associates, employees, we create a company culture. It's who we are every day, the way we react with our clients, internal and external, the way we interact with each other. So the better work environments we have and we create for our coworkers, the better company culture we're going to have from the site level all the way up. And I'm a strong believer in that. That's why I said, as a leader, the main job is to be a servant to your people and be there for whatever they need you for.
That's great. Tell me about the value you think this means to the investment cycle, to having engaged employees. What does it mean to you?
I'm just going to give you my current situation example. I've been at these sites for 4 years. We've been through probably over 2,000, for sure, over 2,000 make readies. We've done several preventive maintenance programs to the property in 4 years. And now we're at a point to where we're just not in reactive mode. We're just ready for whatever's coming in. We're ready for it. We're not running behind. That's why I mentioned earlier that at the end of the day, most of the days, we have 5 pending requests or less, sometimes 0. And for 843 apartment homes, that's not easy to achieve. So keeping a team engaged, reducing employee turnover, not having too many people coming and leaving. You build a team, you build some systems, some processes, you put them in place, you execute, and that increases the asset value tremendously. Just like you said, a leaky faucet, the little things that we catch when we do preventive maintenance, those translate into a lot of money. When the time comes for our owners to sell these assets, I think this will be seen. They will get a great return for their investment because of that.
Yes, that's a good point, Adrian. And do you think, what did you see in this industry when you first, I know your entry was different, and you had eyes with opportunity. Did you discover all these things after you got involved in the industry, or did you have all of this vision laid out?
I'm pretty much a self-taught person. So of course I'm learning from my coworkers. I learned from great leaders that I had the opportunity to work with. But again, I try to teach myself things every day. I'm very inquisitive. I like to challenge the status quo. This might be the two-way sword for me, but sure. I like to understand why things happen. So I like to get to the bottom of things, situations, and I think it's like exercise for your brain. It keeps it keeps me sharp and of course engaged, and it makes me better. If every day I do this a little bit every day, I think just 1%. If I could improve every day, this is huge.
Yeah, it's got to feel good. Making progress certainly is a good thing personally and professionally. So tell me, what do you say to somebody that's considering this as a career?
I will say this is a great opportunity. If we're just talking about the service side, think about this. Someone goes to college, a 4-year college degree. How much would that be? Probably $50,000. And this is usually student loans that you got to pay back. You come into this industry, you could come green, just be willing to work. And you could move up the ranks to become, let's say, a service manager, not considering the high echelons of the industry, but you could be a service manager and make as much money as a teacher, okay? And you're not gonna have that debt. So how much better can it get than this? So the opportunities are really, there's no limit to the opportunities we have. We always look for great people from outside the industry. I personally have a goal to tap into military veterans just because they have the discipline already. I think they're organized, their mind is organized. So you have the foundation right there. You could just build upon that foundation and just teach them the technical stuff.
That's great. That's good advice there. Tell me some last thoughts that you might want to leave those listening in? Anything that you want to share that I haven't asked already?
Focusing on service, focusing on maintenance could be it is a great differentiator, and all the owners, the asset managers that really consider investing in their service are gonna get great returns. There are companies that are already doing it. My company is one of them. Definitely, they're very, very focused, and they're driving this. Service side, the facility side. I think we're definitely on the right track and ahead of the competition. When it comes to that, the most common reason I'm hearing is when there's no resources per se for tools or for repairs for maintenance, is that I will just tell them, I will advise reallocate. If there's no resources, reallocate. And I tell you, the returns are gonna be tremendous. I think the time will tell, but definitely the world we're living right now, competition is fierce, really. There's not enough qualified people out there, so obviously we try to build our teams to bring more great talent in, and whoever's gonna win this war is gonna be able to get great returns, charge higher rents. That translates into income, so it's going to be a win-win situation for everybody.
Adrian, thank you for sharing the time with us today. I'm inspired by how you've developed yourself as a leader, what you're doing for others, and the impact that you're trying to create in the industry. It's inspiring to be part of that and to listen to your story and how you're influencing others. I know that companies today are looking to differentiate. They're looking to create experiences, attract people to their communities, and your ability to create service mindset, and leaders that subscribe to those efforts is important, not only to our industry, but the next generation of leaders that are considering this as a career. We need to have the voice of people like yourself to get out there, share to the world what it's like to win in multifamily. So thank you, Adrian, for joining us on the call today.
Patrick, thank you very much for having me. I will come back gladly anytime you would like to invite me.
All right. All right, Adrian, and enjoy your day.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the Multifamily Leadership Podcast. For show notes and other resources, visit multifamilyleadership.com.